Imagine waking up tomorrow and everything you love, your family, your freedom, your future, has been stripped away. You're herded into a camp, surrounded by barbed wire and guards, treated as less than human. Every single day, survival itself hangs by a thread. Most people would give up. But Viktor Frankl, he found something the Nazis couldn't take. A reason to live, a meaning so powerful it helped him endure the unendurable. And here's the shocking truth. His discovery isn't just about surviving the Holocaust. It's about surviving life itself. Because whether you realize it or not, you too are searching for meaning right now. This is man's search for meaning. And it may change the way you see your life forever.
Hello, everyone. Hi, all.
And welcome to BookPodCastZone.
I'm Emma, and I'm incredibly excited to truly unpack this timeless classic with you today, really get into every nuance, every implication.
And I'm John.
Here to help us unpack the profound insights from some of the most impactful works ever written, distill their core wisdom, and, well, connect directly to your life today.
Today, we're embarking on a truly extraordinary deep dive. We're looking into a book that, many consider one of the most important, not just of the 20th century, but maybe for all time.
Absolutely.
Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's just this incredible testament to the human spirit, forged in the darkest corners of history. And yet its lessons resonate so profoundly today. They offer, a beacon of hope and really practical guidance for anyone seeking purpose.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how Frankl, who was a psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor.
Wait, that dual perspective is key.
Exactly. He transforms this unimaginable suffering into a powerful, practical philosophy for finding purpose. And like you said, this isn't just a historical account of survival, though it is that too, and powerfully so. It's a living, breathing guide for navigating the challenges of modern life. It offers these real aha moments that can genuinely shift your perspective on adversity, on meaning itself.
Absolutely. So we'll explore his personal, truly harrowing journey. We'll unpack his groundbreaking psychological theories, logotherapy, which we'll get into.
Yes.
And most importantly, we want to show how his insights can help you, our listener, find clarity, find resilience, and, well, profound direction in your own search for meaning, no matter what life throws your way.
Okay, so to really grasp Frankl's message, we first have to step into the world he describes. It's tough reading, but essential.
It really is.
He throws us right into the harrowing reality of the concentration camps during World War II. In this initial part of the book, he describes the psychological journey of prisoners in these three gripping stages. It reveals the raw, almost primal survival instincts at play within the human mind when it's pushed to its absolute limits.
Yeah.
It's an unflinching look at what it means to be stripped of everything, your identity, your possessions, your dignity, yet still somehow retain a spark of humanity.
And Frankl's perspective is so unique because he lived it. He endured 4 of these hellish places himself, including Auschwitz, the infamous one.
Right. So this isn't just detached theory. It's a first-hand account, which lends this incredible visceral authenticity to his observations. He saw the human mind fracturing under unimaginable pressure, but also, simultaneously, adapting and resisting in ways that, frankly, continue to astonish psychologists today.
He wasn't just a victim then.
No, not at all. He was an active observer, almost using his psychiatric training, maybe instinctively at times, to meticulously analyze the unfolding tragedy around him and, crucially, within himself.
Wow. Okay, so that first stage he identifies. It hits you immediately, like you said, like a physical blow. It's the moment of arrival. He calls it shock upon arrival. You've been ripped from your normal life, herded onto a packed train, often for days, not knowing where you're going, and then abruptly, brutally, you were there.
Yeah.
Surrounded by barbed wire, menacing guards, the smell of death maybe, and just the terrifying unknown of a place designed purely for suffering and extermination. Frankl describes an immediate disbelief, a profound numbness, almost like a psychological shielding kicks in. Prisoners would cling to what he termed illusions of escape, maybe thinking, I won't be so bad, or I'll be released soon.
False hope, essentially.
Yeah, or they'd resort to this dark laughter at the absurdity of their situation. Anything, really, to cope with the sudden, overwhelming, and utterly incomprehensible cruelty. This initial denial, this raw, instinctual shutting down. Frankl saw it as a deep-seated survival mechanism.
Against the overwhelming cruelty, yeah.
It's almost like the mind's self-preservation button is just instinctively triggered to prevent immediate collapse.
And what Frankl masterfully articulated, drawing from his direct experience, is that this initial shock isn't just, a passive reaction. It's an active, protective strategy the psyche employs.
Active, okay.
He saw it as almost like evolutionary hardwiring, a mental circuit breaker. That's a good analogy you used earlier. It's designed to shield the individual from the immediate overwhelming force of absolute dehumanization.
Right.
It's not merely denial in the simple sense, like pretending something isn't happening. It's a crucial temporary suspension of reality that allows the system, the mind, the person, to remain functional, however minimally, against this tidal wave of trauma.
Because your brain just can't process that level of horror all at once.
Exactly. It can't. So it creates this buffer, this sense of unreality, maybe detachment, to allow you to absorb it, or rather deflect it, gradually without being instantly overwhelmed and just, well, psychologically destroyed on the spot. This mental defense mechanism is really a testament to the resilience embedded within human psychology, even under the most extreme conditions imaginable.
It makes sense. And we see echoes of this today, don't we? Even in less extreme, though still devastating situations.
Oh, definitely.
Think about the immediate aftermath of a sudden, overwhelming event right here in the U.S. Say, a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina hitting New Orleans.
I remember the accounts.
People described feeling this profound numbness, almost a dreamlike state, as they waded through floodwaters or saw their homes just completely destroyed. That initial shock, that disbelief.
Or think about the aftermath of a major terrorist attack like 9/11. The initial reports from survivors often describe that same sense of unreality, difficulty processing what was happening.
Right, or even on a more personal level, a profound personal loss, like the sudden unexpected death of a loved one. Many people report a similar initial numbness, a sense of unreality, that immediate, I can't believe this is happening feeling. The brain almost freezes, just giving itself time to process the unbearable.
Yeah, you might find yourself going through the motions, talking to people, making arrangements, functioning on autopilot, but feeling strangely detached, as if you're watching a movie of your own life. It seems to be a fundamental human response to acute trauma.
Okay, so that's the initial shock. But then, as Frankl describes, the days blurred into weeks, weeks into months of what he called endless torment. A new, more insidious stage emerged.
Yes, this is the second stage. Apathy. He said apathy crept in like a fog. He termed it a protective veil.
The protective veil.
Uh,
That sounds almost paradoxical. Apathy is protection.
It does, but think about it. This emotional shutdown, this dulling of feelings, allowed prisoners to bear the unbearable. The constant starvation, the arbitrary beatings, the degrading treatment, the devastating loss of fellow prisoners. Watching people die daily.
Right.
To feel the full emotional weight of that constantly would be utterly crushing. So apathy became a way to conserve psychological energy. It wasn't about giving up hope entirely, not always. It was more a strategy to focus solely on mere existence, as he put it. On the next crust of bread, on avoiding a beating, on surviving the next hour, the next day. It was a kind of quiet, internal rebellion against the camp's dehumanized machine that sought to strip away every last vestige of their humanity, their feeling.
That's a really powerful reframing. So it wasn't just passive giving up, like we might normally think of apathy. It was an active, almost unconscious redirection of vital mental and emotional resources toward the sheer mechanics of staying alive.
Precisely. You had to shut down certain parts of yourself to keep the core functional. Think about the energy it takes to feel outrage, grief, fear constantly.
It would be exhausting.
Utterly exhausting and potentially dangerous in that environment. Showing too much emotion could attract negative attention. So this emotional blunting allowed them to focus all resources on the immediate physical demands of survival.
Yeah, you can see parallels, maybe fainter echoes in modern life, too. For instance, individuals facing prolonged severe stress,
Wait.
like frontline healthcare workers in overwhelmed U.S. hospitals during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember those stories?
Oh, absolutely. The burnout, the trauma.
Doctors and nurses described feeling emotionally numb, detached, just going through the motions to get through the day or the shift without truly processing the immense weight of the death and suffering they were witnessing constantly.
Or think about someone trapped in an extremely demanding, maybe toxic job situation with little support, maybe in a high-pressure industry like, say, law or finance, working 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
They might find themselves becoming emotionally detached from their work, from their colleagues, maybe even from their families, just to cope. They shut down aspects of their emotional lives simply to endure, to keep showing up, to survive another day in a highly challenging environment.
It's a coping mechanism then, a way to build a wall around your core self to prevent total emotional burnout and psychological collapse.
Exactly. So if we connect this to the bigger picture Frankl was painting, apathy becomes a critical, albeit incredibly painful, survival tool.
Why?
When you are systematically stripped of dignity, when your basic needs are denied day after day, and your very identity is being erased.
Reduced to a number.
Reduced to a number, exactly. Shutting down emotionally is not a weakness in that context. It's a profound, maybe even necessary form of self-preservation. It redirects all available energy towards basic physical survival. It's the psyche's way of compartmentalizing horror, conserving precious psychological resources when external resources are non-existent and the environment is overwhelmingly hostile. It allows for continued functioning in the face of an otherwise annihilating reality.
Okay, shock first, then apathy. What was the third stage Frankl observed?
This one is perhaps the most counterintuitive. It happened after liberation.
After freedom, you'd think that would be pure joy, relief.
You would think. But for many, Frankl observed, it wasn't that simple. Instead, liberation often brought a haunting disconnection. Freedom felt unreal, he wrote, like watching your own life from afar.
Depersonalization.
Exactly. A profound form of depersonalization. He rooted this in the camp's forced detachment. The psychological impact of being in such an extreme, dehumanizing environment for so long meant that simply removing the physical chains didn't instantly restore a sense of normalcy or connection to the world. The mind couldn't just switch back.
That's chilling. The idea that the prison stays with you even after you leave.
It raises a deeply important question. What happens when the immediate threat is removed, but the mind remains conditioned by extreme, prolonged trauma? Frankl's profound insight reminds us how deeply trauma lingers, how it rewires the brain, making the transition back to normal life incredibly challenging.
It's not a switch you can just flip.
Absolutely not. The deep-seated psychological adaptations, the hypervigilance, the emotional numbness or detachment, the mistrust, the self-protective mechanisms that actually enabled survival in the camp, paradoxically make reintegration into a free, normal society incredibly difficult. The mind has learned to be in a constant state of either hyperarousal or dissociation, and those learned behaviors, those neural pathways, don't just disappear overnight when the gates open.
Frankl's observations here feel eerily current still. Think of veterans returning home to the U.S. after combat, particularly those who have seen extensive conflict in places like Iraq or Afghanistan.
PTSD is a clear example.
They often describe struggling to reconnect with family, with civilian life, feeling a sense of unreality or like there's an invisible barrier between themselves and the world they left behind. That feeling of being other, of not fitting in anymore.
Or consider survivors of other significant life-altering traumatic events, maybe survivors of school shootings or people who've lived through devastating wildfires in California, losing everything.
Yeah.
They might report feeling strangely disassociated, numb, even when they're physically safe, surrounded by loved ones. The physical chains are broken, the immediate danger is gone, but the psychological ones can remain, creating this profound sense of isolation despite being back in familiar surroundings amidst familiar faces.
So this depersonalization really highlights the lasting impact of extreme stress and trauma on the human psyche. It's not just about the memories, it's about how the experience reshapes your perception of reality itself.
Indeed. And it teaches us that recovery is a complex, often long, multi-layered process that extends far beyond the cessation of the immediate threat. Frankl's work gives us this crucial lens through which to understand the long-term psychological consequences of such experiences, emphasizing that the scars are often invisible but deeply, profoundly impactful. It demands compassion and understanding for that difficult transition back.
Wow. Okay, that lays out the incredibly challenging psychological journey. A necessary foundation to understand where Frankl goes next. If you're finding this exploration valuable and gaining new perspectives today, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and perhaps share this deep dive with others who might be interested. It helps us continue bringing these important ideas to light. We'll have more updates and deep dives into transformative works coming your way. Okay, so we've just unpacked the harrowing psychological stages Frankl observed, that initial shock, the protective veil of apathy, and even the haunting disconnection after liberation. It's incredibly grim.
It is. It paints a picture of the mind under almost unimaginable duress.
But what's truly astonishing, and maybe the most hopeful aspect of Frankl's observations, is that even within those hellish conditions, he didn't just see breakdown. He saw resistance. Not necessarily physical resistance, but psychological resistance.
That's right. He witnessed individuals actively resisting the dehumanization, finding ways to assert their inner freedom, their core humanity, even when everything external was designed to crush it.
So what were these electrifying methods of psychological resistance that he saw emerging from the very depths of despair? How did people fight back internally?
Well, amidst the relentless despair of the concentration camps, where, as we've said, the Nazi guards systematically tried to strip away every shred of dignity, some souls astonishingly refused to shatter. And Frankl's unique position, being both prisoner and trained psychiatrist,
Allowed him to see it.
allowed him to observe and analyze these subtle yet incredibly profound acts of internal defiance. These weren't grand physical uprisings, those were usually impossible and suicidal. These were deep psychological strategies that proved, maybe definitively, that even when everything external is controlled, the human spirit can find an inviolable sanctuary within.
An inner fortress.
Precisely. That leads to the first method Frankl identified, cultivating a private world as a fortress.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Prisoners consciously, actively created these internal fortresses built from their thoughts, their cherished memories, their intellectual life, and their spirituality. These were spheres that remained utterly untouched and untouchable by the guards, the starvation, or the brutal conditions.
So even in that environment.
Even there, it's almost impossible for us to imagine, but even amidst the squalor and horror, Frankl observed things like secret cabarets sparking laughter, maybe just a few prisoners sharing jokes or singing softly, or whispered prayers igniting hope. These weren't just fleeting distractions. Frankl saw them as profound assertions of self, of identity, of enduring humanity.
Little pockets of defiance.
Exactly. He saw how humor, even gallows humor, or a commitment to art, maybe just scratching a poem onto a scrap of paper, or an unwavering faith elevated prisoners above their suffering, if only for moments. They found beauty and meaning in the smallest things, a vivid sunset viewed through the barbed wire, the memory of a loved one's face, recalled with intense focus. A mental image that no guard could confiscate or defile.
Wow. That internal life becomes a lifeline.
Absolutely. And Frankl provides really insightful analysis on how these inner acts were not just fleeting coping mechanisms, not just ways to pass the time. They were profound acts of defiance.
Defiance.
They were ways to reclaim a part of oneself that the external world, the oppressors, could not touch. It was about maintaining a spark of humanity, of individuality in a history's darkest chapter. By focusing inward on their values, their past loves, their spiritual beliefs, their intellectual pursuits, they maintained an identity separate from the number tattooed on their arm or the dehumanizing labels imposed by their captors.
So that inner freedom.
That cultivation of an unassailable inner life was the ultimate challenge to their oppressors. It demonstrated powerfully that the mind can remain sovereign even when the body is enslaved and all external liberties are gone.
And many of us do this instinctively, right?
Yeah.
When we're facing stressful situations, maybe not concentration camps, thank goodness, but still difficult times. Like a really demanding work project with impossible deadlines that feels overwhelming, or maybe navigating a serious illness in the family, or even just dealing with the daily grind of modern anxieties. We often retreat into our own inner worlds.
How so? Give me an example.
Well, we might use journaling to process our thoughts and feelings, kind of externalize the internal chaos, or practice meditation to find calm and perspective amidst the storm, or just listening to music that transports us away from the immediate stress, or practicing our faith, finding solace and strength in prayer or scripture. These are all, modern, less extreme versions of building that mental fortress Frankl described.
That's a great connection. It's about creating an internal space where you can replenish, recenter, and remind yourself of who you are, separate from the external pressures and the chaos that might be swirling around you. It's about accessing that untouchable core.
Okay, so the inner world as a fortress. What was the second method of resistance?
This one is equally vital and maybe more forward-looking. It was focusing on visions of the future that fueled endurance.
Visions of the future. Like hope.
Like concrete hope, yes. These visions acted like beacons cutting through the night of their present suffering, as Frankl vividly put it. He observed that those prisoners who had goals beyond the wire, specific things they wanted to live for, seemed to have a stronger grip on life.
What kinds of goals?
It could be anything deeply personal and meaningful. Reuniting with loved ones, imagining that moment of embrace. Rebuilding shattered lives, maybe restarting a business or returning to a profession. Frankl himself famously clung to the goal of rewriting and publishing his manuscript on logotherapy, which the Nazis had confiscated.
Wow.
Those with these kinds of concrete goals, these reasons to survive beyond just surviving the moment, they clung tighter to life. This ability to project oneself into a future beyond the immediate suffering was absolutely critical. It provided a tangible purpose for enduring the present hell, a compelling reason to fight for another day, another moment.
And this echoes so strongly in so many modern stories, especially here in the U.S., which has always been a place of, future dreams for many.
Really?
Think of recent immigrants or refugees arriving, maybe in places like California or New York, often with nothing but the clothes on their back. They dream of new beginnings, of building new lives for their families, of achieving security and opportunity. That future vision powers them through incredible hardship.
Or consider students working towards a degree, maybe being the first in their family to go to college. They might be juggling multiple jobs, family responsibilities, financial stress.
Yeah.
But that vision of graduation, of achieving a long-term career goal, of creating a different future for themselves and their children that sustains them through the late nights and the sacrifices. Even when facing significant obstacles, language barriers, financial hardship, cultural adjustments, systemic hurdles, that vision of a better future sustains them.
It's the belief that their current struggles are temporary, right? A necessary path towards a meaningful future they're actively working to create. That forward-looking perspective is an incredibly powerful motivator. It's a testament to the human spirit's drive for progress and betterment.
And Frankl's keen observations really highlight these future goals as an essential lifeline. It underscores the profound power of hope and purpose. Not just vague hope, but hope attached to a specific, meaningful goal. A belief that there is something tangible, something specific to live for beyond the immediate suffering. This is such a crucial element of human resilience. It's the foresight to see beyond the immediate horror, to hold on to a sense of anticipation and possibility, which gives meaning to the present hardship. Without that future orientation, without that internal beacon lighting the way, it becomes much, much easier to succumb to the crushing weight of despair and apathy.
Inner world future visions was the third, and you mentioned maybe the ultimate, form of resistance.
This is the one Frankl is perhaps most famous for articulating. The ultimate defiance, the ultimate freedom, as he called it, was choosing your response no matter the horror.
Choosing your response, even when you have no other choices.
Precisely. Even when physically chained, beaten, starved, stripped of all external freedom, prisoners still retain the power to decide their inner stance. They could choose how they faced their suffering. Would they face it with dignity, or with bitterness, with courage or despair? This internal choice, Frankl argued, was a power the Nazis could not take away.
So it's not about controlling the situation, because they couldn't.
No.
It's about controlling your attitude towards the situation.
Exactly. This isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending everything is okay. That would be delusional. It's about making a conscious, deliberate decision about how you will react, how you will be in the face of suffering that you cannot change or escape. It's recognizing that even when all external options are gone, your inner attitude, your inner freedom remains your own to command.
And that, in itself, is an act of reclaiming power.
A profound act. Frankl delivers such powerful insight here, showing how attitude became the last freedom. It's the profound realization that while external circumstances might be completely beyond our control, and for the camp prisoners, they absolutely would. Our internal reaction, our interpretation, our chosen stance is always ours to choose.
Always.
Always. This is such a timeless lesson for facing today's uncertainties. Think about navigating significant economic upheavals, like we might see with market fluctuations or job insecurity in 2025.
Right?
Or sudden personal crises, a frightening health diagnosis, a relationship breakdown, a major setback. We may not control what happens to us, but we always, always retain the power to decide how we respond to it. And that choice, Frankl insists, is where our ultimate freedom and dignity lie. This concept really forms the bedrock of his entire philosophy of logotherapy.
And you see this played out in countless inspiring stories across America today. Individuals who, after facing a life-altering illness, maybe like ALS or a severe accident resulting in paralysis, they choose not to be defined solely by their condition. They choose to become advocates for others, raising awareness and funds. Or they find new ways to pursue passions, redefining what a full life means to them, maybe taking up adaptive sports or creating art.
Yes, they transform their suffering.
They can't change what happened to them, the physical reality, but they choose how they live with it, how they respond to it. And often in doing so, they inspire millions. Think about organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD, a classic example, founded by a mother, Candy Leitner, after her daughter was killed by a drunk driver. She channeled her unimaginable grief and anger into action, into changing laws, into preventing similar tragedies. That's choosing a response.
It's taking the tragic triad pain, guilt, death, which we'll talk about later, and turning it into something meaningful. It's actively choosing purpose in the face of meaninglessness, This deep, defiant choice is a testament to what Frankl saw as the indestructible nature of the human spirit.
Wow. Inner fortress, future vision, choosing your attitude. These are incredibly powerful tools, not just for survival, but for living meaningfully.
Absolutely. This capacity to choose one's attitude, to find meaning even in the most apparently meaningless situations, is arguably Frankl's most profound contribution to psychology and philosophy. It fundamentally shifts the locus of control inward, empowering individuals even when all external power has been stripped away. It's a powerful testament to our potential for resilience.
So from the ashes of these unimaginable camp experiences, Viktor Frankl didn't just survive, though that in itself is incredible. He did something truly extraordinary. He created something profoundly new. He refined and articulated his own school of psychotherapy.
That's right, logotherapy.
Logotherapy. This chapter introduces his groundbreaking philosophy. It's a bold new path to understanding what truly drives us as human beings. And it's a concept born from the deepest, most unimaginable suffering, yet it offers hope and direction that feels, incredibly relevant for all of us today, maybe even more so now than when he first wrote it.
It really does. Rising from the ashes of his camp ordeals, Viktor Frankl forged logotherapy, the term logos here meaning meaning in Greek.
Meaning therapy.
Essentially, yes. Therapy through meaning. In the aftermath of World War II's devastation, amidst the wreckage of human values and the existential questions that lingered, he argued something quite radical for the time. He said our deepest craving isn't for comfort, as some psychologies like perhaps behaviorism might suggest.
Right.
Nor is it primarily for power, as Adler proposed, or even pleasure, as Freud famously emphasized with the pleasure principle.
The dominant theories, then.
Exactly. Instead, Frankl proposed a burning, inherent quest for purpose, for meaning. He called this the will to meaning, and he saw it as the primary motivational force in human beings. This was a radical departure from the prevailing psychologies of his time.
And he wasn't just theorizing this in an academic vacuum, was he? He saw evidence for it everywhere.
Absolutely. He argued that our deepest craving is this burning quest for purpose. He drew heavily on his camp experiences, where he saw that those who had a reason to live, a meaning to fulfill, were often the ones most likely to survive. But he also found evidence outside the camps. He cited surveys from his time, even back then, revealing that most people, when asked what they truly wanted from life, yearned for something worth living for, or even, in some cases, worth dying for.
Something beyond just comfort or happiness.
Something far beyond fleeting pleasures or material accumulation. It suggests that even when our basic needs for food, shelter, safety are met, there's a deeper innate human desire for meaning and significance that often goes unfulfilled in modern affluent societies.
Yeah.
People aren't just looking for happiness, which Frankl actually saw as a byproduct of meaning.
Okay.
They're looking for why they are here, what their existence means, what unique task or contribution life is asking of them.
So this idea challenges conventional psychology then, especially the idea that suffering is always something to be avoided or eliminated.
Profoundly. Logotherapy asserts that suffering isn't necessarily pathological. It can be endured, even embraced, if it serves a greater purpose, if it has meaning. Think back to the third path of finding meaning we discussed, confronting suffering.
Right, turning pain into growth.
Exactly. Meaning, Frankl argues, isn't something you just invent in a self-absorbed way, nor is it purely a subjective feeling like happiness. It's objective in a sense. It's discovered in the world through causes and connections that pull us outward.
Outward, not inward.
Primarily outward. It's an outward-directed pursuit. It's found in recognizing and responding to something greater than oneself, whether that be dedicating yourself to another person, love, committing to a cause or value, engaging in creative work, or embracing a spiritual belief system. This is a crucial distinction. Meaning isn't primarily self-generated through introspection, though reflection helps. It's something we perceive and respond to in the challenges and opportunities the world presents to us.
That really resonates when you look at how many Americans seem to be searching for more than just material success today. You see it everywhere.
How so?
Well, you see people making significant life changes, leaving high-paying, prestigious jobs in fields like finance on Wall Street or tech in Silicon Valley to pursue passions in nonprofits or education or the arts.
Trading salary for significance.
Exactly. Or people dedicating huge amounts of their spare time to community service in their local towns, coaching kids' sports, volunteering at shelters, organizing neighborhood initiatives, or even taking huge risks to start social enterprises, businesses designed to prioritize positive impact on society or the environment over maximizing profit. They're doing this it seems, not primarily for money or status, but because they're seeking something that truly matters to them, something beyond just personal gratification or the endless accumulation of wealth. It's about impact, contribution, and living in alignment with deeply held values that give their lives a sense of true significance. It feels like Frankl's will to meaning in action.
I agree. And this hunger for significance, as Frankl saw it, directly combats the emptiness many feel, this profound void he saw growing in post-war society. He observed that as traditional values and guiding narratives decline, things like strong religious belief, clear societal roles, multi-generational community bonds, and as material comforts simultaneously increased in Western societies. Paradoxically, people often felt a profound sense of aimlessness and inner hollowness despite their improving external circumstances. He famously termed this the existential vacuum.
The existential vacuum. That sounds bleak.
It describes a pervasive feeling of emptiness and meaninglessness, a sense that life lacks purpose, that you're just going through the motions. Frankl saw it as a major source of neurosis in the modern age.
And today, August 29, 2025, with all the rising mental health discussions around, say, AI-driven job displacement fears, or the potential for increased social isolation due to technology, or just the rapid pace of societal change.
Yeah.
Frankl's ideas about the existential vacuum ring incredibly true, don't they?
They absolutely do. He remarkably predicted that as traditional sources of meaning weakened and material comforts and leisure time increased, many people would feel this profound sense of aimlessness. This existential vacuum is something we see discussed constantly, maybe under different names: burnout, languishing, purpose anxiety.
Right.
We see it reflected in statistics on anxiety, depression, addiction. It's this feeling where connection can feel superficial, despite being constantly connected online through countless platforms. It's a paradox of having infinite information, but struggling to find wisdom or direction.
Frankl's foresight there is just stunning. He anticipated that technological advancement and societal shifts, while bringing benefits, could inadvertently lead to a spiritual and psychological void, if not counterbalanced by a conscious search for meaning.
And his solution, logotherapy, directly addresses this. It urges us to seek purpose actively, consciously, to transform aimless days perhaps filled with passive consumption or distraction, into directed adventures. It's a call to move beyond just scrolling or consuming, and to consciously engage with what gives our lives value.
Pushing back against the inertia and hyper-distraction of modern life.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that meaning isn't found through introspection alone, endlessly asking what makes me happy. It's found through engagement with the world, through taking on challenges, through serving causes, through loving others.
Think about the widespread burnout we hear about constantly, and the purpose crises, especially maybe among younger generations trying to navigate career paths, or people reevaluating their lives post-global events like pandemics, or just that feeling of being overwhelmed and strangely empty after hours of endless scrolling on social media, which often leaves us feeling more depleted than fulfilled. Logotherapy urges us to actively seek purpose, to turn those aimless days into directed adventures.
It's a powerful invitation to step away from passive consumption and actively engage with what gives our lives genuine value, whether that's through our work, our relationships, our creative pursuits, or our contributions to the wider world. It's about shifting from the question, what do I get from life? Or what can life give me? To the more profound, more demanding question, what does life ask of me? What unique contribution? What response is needed from me right now in this situation?
That shift in perspective is huge. Puts a responsibility back on us.
It does. This active seeking of purpose is a potent antidote to the feeling of emptiness. It's about recognizing that meaning is not passively given to us, but is discovered and created through our responses to life's questions and challenges.
Okay, so meaning is paramount. But if it's discovered outward, how do we actually go about finding it? What are the concrete paths?
That's exactly where Frankl goes next. He doesn't just leave us with the why, he gives us the how.
If you're finding this helpful, remember to like, subscribe, and share for more deep dives. Okay, so we've established that for Frankl, this will to meaning is our primary drive, and finding meaning is crucial for resilience and fulfillment, combating that existential vacuum. So the big question remains, how do we actually find it? If meaning is the key, where do we look for the lock?
Right. And this is where Frankl gets incredibly practical, drawing directly from his raw survival experiences, but translating them into universal principles. In this next chapter, he maps out 3 distinct, though often overlapping, routes to discovering meaning. Each one is a doorway to a richer, more purposeful existence.
And these aren't just for people in extreme situations.
Not at all. These pathways are forged in the crucible of extreme suffering, yes, which gives them immense weight and credibility, but they remain universally applicable today for anyone in any circumstance seeking a deeper sense of purpose.
Okay, what's the first path?
The first path is finding meaning through action or creation, doing something, making something, achieving something.
Okay.
He urges us to start with action, crafting or achieving something that resonates deeply. Think of an artist pouring soul into a canvas, losing themselves in the act of creation. Or a teacher igniting young minds, finding deep purpose and nurturing the potential of others.
It's about our work, our deeds.
It's about the meaning we find or instill in our work, our deeds. It's not just about having a job or completing tasks. It's about infusing purpose into whatever you do. Seeing your work, your efforts, your contributions, big or small, as an expression of your deepest self, your values, your unique talents. Frankl observed that even in the grim barracks of the camps, deeds tied to bigger causes fueled hope. Even seemingly small acts. Think of prisoners helping each other in secret, sharing a tiny precious morsel of bread, offering a word of comfort to someone despairing, or tending to the sick even at great personal risk.
Those weren't creative in the artistic sense, but they were acts of profound meaning.
Exactly. They were creating moments of humanity, of connection, of care in an environment designed to destroy those very things. That's creation in its deepest sense.
So Frankl's analysis here emphasizes that our actions aren't just tasks, they're expressions of our unique purpose.
Precisely. Our unique contribution to the world. And like you said, this isn't necessarily about grand world-changing gestures, though it can be. It's also about finding meaning in the quality of our everyday work, the integrity of our contributions, how we apply our skills and talents to something larger than our own immediate self-interest.
How we do what we do matters.
Immensely. It's about seeing the inherent value in effort, in making, in building, in caring, in contributing, and recognizing the impact these actions have, no matter how small they might seem on the surface. Each act, when undertaken with purpose, with intention, becomes a building block of a meaningful life.
And we see this playing out everywhere in the U.S. today. You mentioned the engineer earlier.
Right, the one in Portland designing sustainable infrastructure.
Their work isn't just calculations and blueprints. It's a tangible contribution to a healthier future, driven by a value for environmental stewardship. That's meaning through creation.
Or think about a healthcare professional in a busy emergency room, maybe in a major city like Chicago. The shifts are long, the work is draining, often traumatic.
Yeah.
But many find profound purpose in the tireless, compassionate care they provide, in easing suffering, in saving lives. That action, that service, is deeply meaningful.
Or that local community organizer, maybe in a place like Detroit, working persistently to revitalize a neighborhood, build bridges between different groups, create opportunities.
Their work isn't just meetings and phone calls. It's a testament to their values, maybe justice, equity, community. It's a source of profound meaning because they are actively creating something positive. Better health outcomes, a sustainable city, social cohesion. And that act of creation, of contribution, fuels their sense of purpose.
Okay, so meaning through deeds, through creation. What's the second path?
The second path is finding meaning through experience, especially love. This is about encountering something or, more importantly, someone.
Experiencing beauty or connection.
Both. Frankl spoke about finding meaning in experiencing goodness, truth, or beauty, appreciating nature, art, music. But he placed particular emphasis on experiencing another human being in their uniqueness through love.
Love is a source of meaning.
A primary source. He described love as the profound bond that sees another's essence, their potentiality, their core worth, regardless of their current circumstances. He noted that in the camps, intensely focusing on the memories of loved ones sustained prisoners incredibly powerfully.
He talks about thinking of his wife, doesn't he?
Yes, vividly. He describes how conjuring her image, having imaginary conversations with her, gave him immense strength and a reason to endure, even when he didn't know if she was still alive. It highlights that human connection, particularly in its deepest, most authentic form, is a fundamental source of meaning. Love, in Frankl's view, transcends the physical and temporal. It anchors us to something beautiful, enduring, and eternally valuable, even when the loved one is physically absent or even gone.
And this resonates so strongly in our lives today, maybe especially today, in a society that can sometimes feel hyper-connected technologically, yet simultaneously deeply disconnected emotionally.
Loneliness epidemic discussion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Despite being constantly online, prioritizing genuine, deep relationships with family, friends, partners becomes an active, conscious choice. It's not just assumed anymore.
It requires effort.
It requires effort. It's about being present, truly seeing and valuing others for who they uniquely are, which many Americans are realizing, I think, is far more fulfilling in the long run than endless superficial interactions or chasing likes on curated online personas. Think of the profound joy and meaning found in simply spending quality time with loved ones, really listening. Or the deep satisfaction of caring for a child, nurturing their growth, or offering heartfelt, unwavering support to a friend going through a tough time. These experiences of authentic connection are often the most cherished and defining moments of our lives, weaving a rich tapestry of meaning.
And Frankl's observations really reveal love as a transcendent force. It's the ability to see the unique value and inherent worth in another person, their potential, and, crucially, to be seen and valued in return. This profound connection allows us to transcend our individual existence, our own ego, and find meaning beyond ourselves.
Which is still vital.
Absolutely vital in today's fast-paced relationships, which, as you said, are often strained by digital divides, constant distractions, and the pressure of performance or perfection we see online. In an age where digital communication can sometimes replace genuine presence and vulnerability,
Right.
the deliberate act of cultivating deep, meaningful relationships becomes an even more conscious and purposeful pursuit. It's almost an act of defiance against superficiality, a commitment to what truly nourishes the human spirit.
Okay, so deeds creation and experiences love. What's the third path? You hinted it was the artist.
It is often the most challenging, yes, but also potentially one of the most profound. It's finding meaning through confronting suffering.
Meaning in suffering. How does that work?
It's about the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. Frankl isn't suggesting we seek out pain or romanticize it. That would be masochistic.
Okay.
Rather, when hardship is thrust upon us, when we face suffering that simply cannot be changed or avoided, like a serious illness, the loss of a loved one, or, in his case, imprisonment in a concentration camp, how we choose to bear it, the attitude we adopt in the face of it can add immense depth and meaning to our lives.
The attitude again.
The attitude again. As he put it, bearing hardship with courage adds depth and transforms the suffering itself, not by removing it, but by changing its meaning for us. It becomes, paradoxically, an opportunity to demonstrate our deepest values, our inner strength, our capacity for dignity, even in degradation.
So Viktor Frankl provides powerful insight here. This is the path that perhaps most directly relates to his own experience.
Absolutely. It speaks to the very core of human resilience and freedom. It's not about seeking suffering, let's be clear on that, but it's about finding meaning in suffering when it is unavoidable, transforming a potential tragedy, something that could crush you, into a triumph of the human spirit.
How?
By choosing your response, by finding a purpose within the suffering. Maybe the purpose is to endure for the sake of a loved one, like he did. Maybe it's to learn something profound about yourself or life. Maybe it's to inspire others through your courage. Frankl himself exemplified this by maintaining his will to live and his professional observations while enduring the camps, actively finding meaning in his potential future role as a teacher, sharing these hard-won insights. He turned his suffering into his life's work.
And we see modern heroes doing this every day, often highlighted in news headlines, even now in 2025.
Definitely.
Individuals overcoming devastating illnesses like stage 5E cancer, who not only fight for their own lives, but become powerful advocates for research funding and patient support systems.
Turning their pain into purpose.
Exactly. Or families and communities rebuilding after natural disasters. Think of towns ravaged by tornadoes in Oklahoma or wildfires across the West. They don't just rebuild houses. They often forge stronger community bonds, create new support networks, choosing resilience and mutual aid in the face of devastation.
Or think of those movements born from personal tragedy, where individuals channel their immense grief into advocacy or support for others. We mentioned MADD earlier.
Right.
Or groups advocating for gun control after losing loved ones to violence. These examples demonstrate incredible depth and resilience, turning profound, unbearable pain into a catalyst for meaningful change and collective healing, inspiring millions in the process. They embody Frankl's third path. This path truly encapsulates the core of logotherapy, the radical idea that life never ceases to hold meaning, even in suffering, right up to the last moment. It's a powerful affirmation of the human spirit's capacity for transformation and growth, even when confronted with the darkest aspects of existence. It asserts that our response to suffering is perhaps the ultimate measure of our humanity and our inner freedom.
Okay, so Frankl lays out these three powerful paths to meaning: creation, love, and confronting suffering. It sounds almost straightforward when you list them like that.
If only it were always that easy.
Exactly. Because Frankl also issued a stark warning, didn't he? About the shadows that can obscure these paths, making the quest for purpose quite difficult for many people, especially in modern society.
He absolutely did. This chapter explores those challenges, the obstacles we face in finding our purpose. And the central concept here is one we touched on earlier, the existential vacuum.
Right, that inner emptiness.
Frankl spotted this creeping shadow in the post-World War II era, but arguably it's even more relevant today. He defined the existential vacuum as an inner emptiness born from lost traditions and unguided freedom.
Unguided freedom. Freedom sounds like a good thing.
Freedom is a good thing, Frankl would agree. But he observed that as traditional values and structures declined, things like the strong influence of religion providing clear moral codes and purpose, tight-knit communities with defined roles, unquestioned patriotic narratives, people were left with more individual freedom, more choices than ever before. But often they lacked the internal compass or the external guidance to navigate that freedom meaningfully. And simultaneously, material comforts were increasing, reducing the struggle for basic survival, which, paradoxically, can itself provide a kind of basic purpose.
So too much choice, not enough direction.
In a sense, people found themselves without a clear sense of purpose handed to them, and they didn't necessarily know how to find it for themselves. This led to that profound sense of aimlessness, boredom, and a pervasive feeling of inner emptiness, even if they were outwardly successful. It's a spiritual malaise that can affect anyone, regardless of their external circumstances.
He saw people trying to fill this void, right?
Yeah.
But often in unhelpful ways.
Yes, he astutely noted that people, when faced with this inner void, this lack of meaning, tend to drift into conformity or blind obedience. They might just do what everyone else is doing, follow the crowd, chase the latest trends, adopt mainstream values without questioning them, just to feel like they belong or have some direction, even if it's not authentic.
Keeping up with the Joneses, essentially.
Or, alternatively, they might fill the vacuum with boredom or compulsion. Think of mindless entertainment, excessive consumerism, addiction, whether to substances, work, gambling, even extreme ideologies. Anything to distract from the emptiness, to feel something, or to blindly follow a path laid out by others.
And Frankl warned that this mass neurosis, as he called it, this widespread sense of meaninglessness, actually amplifies in leisure-rich societies.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? More free time, more affluence, you'd think people would be happier, more fulfilled.
But he argued the opposite could happen.
He argued that having more free time, fewer external demands forcing you into action, and an almost paralyzing abundance of choices can, paradoxically, make it harder to find what truly matters. It requires more conscious effort, more self-direction. Without that, the leisure and freedom can curdle into boredom, apathy, and that existential dread, leaving individuals susceptible to superficial solutions or destructive behaviors.
Viktor Frankl provides incredibly prescient analysis here. He really foresaw how increases in leisure and wealth, combined with the decline of traditional meaning frameworks, could lead to this pervasive sense of emptiness. And like you said, it's not just about feeling sad, it's about a lack of intrinsic direction that can manifest as major societal issues.
Think about widespread addiction crises, like the opioid epidemic in parts of the U.S., or the seemingly compulsive consumerism that drives so much of the economy. Or even the appeal of extremist groups that offer a simplistic, albeit dangerous, sense of belonging and purpose. Frankl might see these as symptoms of that underlying existential vacuum. When people lack intrinsic purpose, they often desperately seek to fill that void with external distractions, intense sensations, or a desperate need for acceptance and validation from a group.
This is just incredibly relevant to today's 2025 landscape.
Yeah.
You mentioned the endless scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
That constant bombardment of information and curated perfection on social media can absolutely lead to widespread burnout, comparison anxiety, and these purpose crises, especially after major global events like pandemics forced many people to reevaluate their lives and priorities.
Right.
Many Americans, despite having unprecedented levels of freedom, comfort, and access to information, report feeling deeply unfulfilled or adrift. They might conform to societal pressures, the pressure to get a certain job, buy a certain house, live a certain lifestyle, even if it doesn't align with their true values.
Or follow fleeting online trends, get lost in consumerism, constantly trying to fill that internal void externally with the next purchase, the next experience, the next like, hoping it will finally provide the lasting satisfaction that Frankl argues only true meaning can deliver.
It sounds like a trap.
It can be. But amidst this rather bleak diagnosis, Frankl empowers us. He doesn't just leave us stuck in the existential vacuum.
Okay, good. What's the way out?
He says, meaning waits in responsibility, in answering life's calls uniquely.
Responsibility. That sounds less fun than freedom.
Perhaps. But Frankl saw responsibility as the necessary corollary to freedom. Freedom, he argued, is only part of the story and half the truth. Freedom is likely to degenerate into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in terms of responsibleness. That is why he recommended that the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast should be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast.
Wow, a statue of responsibility. That's a powerful image.
Isn't it? This is where Frankl really pivots from diagnosis to prescription, offering a clear way out of the existential vacuum. He points us towards active engagement and taking ownership. Our lives, he argues, are not just about what we want from life, our demands on it. They are fundamentally about what life expects from us, what unique contribution, what task, what answer only we can provide in our specific situation. It's a call to conscious participation, not passive expectation.
So Frankl's camp-forged wisdom urges us to break free from those traps of conformity and compulsion.
Exactly. To turn challenges, even the challenge of the existential vacuum itself, into chances to define ourselves beyond societal pressures and external expectations. It's a profound call to individual agency, to actively seek out and fulfill our unique meaning, rather than passively accepting what society dictates or what others expect of us.
This idea of individual responsibility in the face of life's profound questions is incredibly empowering, isn't it? It places the power and the burden of finding purpose directly in our own hands.
It does, and it raises that important question again. If meaning is not given to us automatically, but must be found or created, what exactly is our role? Frankl's answer is profound and clear. It's about active engagement. It's about taking responsibility for our choices, for our attitude, and for our unique contribution to the world, however small it may seem.
Rather than just passively accepting what society dictates or waiting for meaning to magically appear.
Precisely. It's about discerning the specific demands, the specific questions that life places upon you uniquely in your circumstances, and then responding to them with intention, with courage, with your whole self. This fundamentally shifts the focus from that abstract, perhaps unanswerable question, what is the meaning of life in general, to the much more concrete and personal question, what meaning am I being called to create or find in this specific situation, in this moment of my life right now?
That feels much more manageable somehow, more actionable.
It is, and in a culture like contemporary America that often emphasizes individual rights, which are crucial, Frankl reminds us of the equally important and perhaps more challenging concept of individual responsibility.
The other side of the coin to freedom.
The necessary other side.
Yeah.
For you, listening now, this might mean making a conscious choice to pursue a challenging career path that truly aligns with your deepest values, rather than just chasing the highest paycheck or the most prestigious title. Maybe it means joining a B Corp or a nonprofit with a strong social mission instead of a conventional corporation.
Or maybe it's outside of work.
Absolutely. It could mean dedicating your precious free time and energy to a cause you deeply believe in, environmental protection in your local community, mentoring underprivileged youth, advocating for social justice rather than just observing passively from the sidelines or clicking like online. It's about consciously choosing to engage, to contribute, to answer life's call rather than waiting for meaning to somehow arrive fully formed, defined by someone else.
It's a powerful call to personal accountability, isn't it? For the direction and purpose of one's own life.
It fundamentally shifts our perspective. From being a potentially passive recipient of circumstances, maybe feeling adrift in that existential vacuum, to becoming an active, responsible participant in shaping our own meaningful existence, even amidst, and perhaps especially amidst, the challenges and uncertainties of modern life.
Okay, so we've talked about the search for meaning, the paths to find it, and the challenges like the existential vacuum. But logotherapy also offers specific techniques, doesn't it? Especially for dealing with common psychological struggles like anxiety.
Yes, absolutely. Frankl wasn't just a philosopher of meaning, he was a practicing psychiatrist. And he developed some remarkably clever, even counterintuitive clinical techniques rooted in his core principles, designed to help people break free from debilitating cycles of fear and obsession.
And these techniques, born from his observations in survival, feel particularly relevant now given how much anxiety seems to permeate modern life.
They really do. He recognized that certain forms of anxiety, particularly what he called anticipatory anxiety, become vicious cycles. The fear of a symptom actually causes the symptom, which then reinforces the fear, and round it goes.
Like fearing you'll blush and then blushing because you're afraid of it.
Exactly that. Or fearing you'll stutter and then stuttering more because you're so focused on not stuttering. Or fearing you won't be able to sleep and then lying awake because you're anxious about not sleeping. His techniques are specifically designed to disrupt these self-perpetuating loops, often with a surprising and liberating touch of humor or a radical shift in focus.
Okay, so what's the first technique?
The first one is called paradoxical intention.
Paradoxical intention. Sounds intriguing.
It is. For that anticipatory dread, that anxiety about a future event or symptom, like fearing you'll blush in a meeting or tremble when giving a presentation or have a panic attack in a crowded place, Frankl suggests paradoxical intention. This means instead of fighting the fear or trying desperately to avoid the symptom, you actively will the feared thing to happen.
You try to make it happen? That sounds completely backwards.
It does, doesn't it? If you're terrified of blushing, he would literally instruct the patient to try with all their might to blush as fiercely and as visibly as possible. Show them what a champion blusher you are, he might say.
Okay, why? How does that possibly help?
Because, as Frankl observed, it often dissolves the fear, surprisingly, through humor and a release of tension. The core idea is to disarm the fear by taking away its power over you. You're no longer the victim of the fear. You're almost mocking it by exaggerating it, by inviting it in, by challenging it to do its worst.
You take the fight out of it.
Precisely. Viktor Frankl delivers insightful analysis here, showing how this effectively diffuses tension. The very act of consciously wishing for the feared event, even exaggerating it humorously, robs it of its power because you're no longer desperately resisting it. Instead, you're paradoxically embracing it, thereby shifting your stance from a passive victim to an active, even playful agent.
It's like mental judo.
That's a great way to put it. You're using the anxiety's own momentum against itself. By paradoxically intending to do the very thing you fear, you shift from being controlled by the fear to being in control of your response to it. And very often, Frankl found, this breaks the vicious cycle entirely. The symptom subsides or even disappears precisely because you're no longer fighting it so hard. He reported significant success using this with patients overcoming phobias, obsessive-compulsive symptoms, and various anxiety disorders.
Let's think about a common example. Many people experience intense social anxiety, maybe dreading public speaking.
A classic.
So, using paradoxical intention. Instead of trying desperately not to shake during your presentation, gripping the podium for dear life.
You would actively try to shake more.
Exactly. You tell yourself, okay, let's really put on a show. Let's see just how much my hands can tremble. Maybe I can make the whole podium rattle. You exaggerate the symptom in your mind to an almost comical degree.
Or if you're worried about blushing, you might think, come on, let's turn beetroot red. Let's aim for the world record in blushing.
It sounds absurd, and that's partly the point. The very absurdity, the humor you inject, often breaks that cycle of escalating fear. You're transforming the fear through defiance and a touch of self-detachment. It's about embracing the worst-case scenario so fully and intentionally that it loses its paralyzing sting, allowing you to regain internal control and perspective.
It's a fascinating technique, quite different from just trying to calm down or rationalize the fear away.
Okay, what's the second technique Frankl offered for dealing with things like anxiety or obsessive thoughts?
The second key technique is called dereflection.
Dereflection. So the opposite of reflection.
In a way, yes. Especially the opposite of excessive self-observation or hyper-reflection, which Frankl saw as often exacerbating problems like anxiety and obsessive thinking. Dereflection means you consciously shift focus outward to meaningful pursuits.
So get out of your own head.
Essentially, yes. Frankl recognized that the more you focus intensely on a symptom, the more you scrutinize your internal state. Am I anxious now? How anxious? Is my heart beating too fast? What was that thought? The stronger and more persistent that symptom or thought pattern often becomes, you get caught in this loop of self-observation and worry.
That makes sense. Focusing on the problem makes it bigger.
Often, yes, especially with anxiety or obsessions. So, dereflection encourages you to deliberately redirect your attention away from yourself and your symptoms and towards the external world, specifically towards engaging in activities or connecting with people or causes that hold personal meaning for you.
And in today's anxiety-fueled world, August 29, 2025, with all the constant stress from, say, the 24/7 news cycle bombarding us with crises or worries about climate change or just the feeling of tech overload, Frankl's methods feel not just relevant, but potentially revolutionary.
I agree. Dear Reflection recognizes that excessive self-focus, what he's sometimes called hyper-reflection, can really exacerbate anxiety and pull us deeper into unproductive rumination. We get stuck inside our own heads.
Mm-hmm.
By actively directing our attention externally towards a purpose, a task, a person, or an interest that genuinely engages us, we naturally pull energy away from that internal rumination that fuels the worry. It's about consciously moving from that often critical internal dialogue of self-analysis, what's wrong with me, to an external engagement with the world. What needs doing? What can I contribute? Who can I connect with?
So it's not just distraction, it's redirection towards meaning.
That's the key difference. It's not just about mindlessly distracting yourself with anything. It's about redirecting your focus towards something personally meaningful, something that draws you out of yourself in a positive way. De-reflection is a powerful antidote to the hyper-reflection that often accompanies anxiety.
Instead of constantly analyzing your internal state, questioning every thought and feeling.
You look outwards. You engage with the world and its opportunities for meaning and contribution. This shifts the internal dialogue from, what's wrong with me, or why am I feeling this, to what can I do for the world, or what task needs my attention, or how can I connect with this person, which is inherently more constructive and liberating. It diverts that precious mental energy from the problematic internal loop to productive, meaningful external engagement.
So if you find yourself caught in a loop of worry, maybe about the constant stream of bad news or intense professional pressures at work or just generalized anxiety, Dear Reflection would suggest what? Engaging deeply in a project you genuinely care about. Maybe finally starting that creative endeavor you've been putting off, or tackling a challenging work assignment with full focus.
Yes, exactly. Or maybe volunteering in your local community, say, helping out at a food bank in a city like Denver, Colorado, or joining a local environmental group, something that connects you to a larger purpose.
Or even just focusing fully on connecting with friends and family, putting the phone away and being genuinely present with them.
Absolutely. It's about actively redirecting your mental energy from that inward-focused anxiety spiral to outward-focused purpose and connection. It helps you, as Frankl might say, reclaim calm through purpose by losing yourself in something bigger than your immediate worries, something that affirms your value and connection to the world.
These methods, paradoxical intention and de-reflection, really highlight Frankl's profound belief, don't they? That true mental health isn't found in constant self-analysis or self-obsession,
No, quite the opposite.
but fundamentally in self-transcendence, in looking beyond oneself to find purpose and meaning in the world, in contributing, in connecting, in creating, in loving. It's a holistic approach that moves beyond just managing symptoms to fostering a deeper, more meaningful engagement with life itself. We're nearing the end of our exploration of man's search for meaning, and there's one more major concept Frankl introduced later in his life, reflecting back on everything he'd learned and experienced.
Yes, decades after World War II, I believe it was in the preface to a 1984 edition of the book, Frankl reflected deeply on life's unyielding pains, the inescapable losses, the tragedies inherent in human existence.
Not exactly cheerful stuff.
Not on the surface. But from this profound reflection, he crafted a defiant and powerfully optimistic stance. He introduced his concept of tragic optimism.
Tragic optimism, that sounds like a contradiction in terms.
It does, doesn't it? But it's perhaps one of his most profound and realistic contributions. This final chapter explores this philosophy, a way of thinking that confronts life's hardest truths head-on, the suffering, the guilt, the inevitability of death. Yet, despite acknowledging all that darkness, it still finds an undeniable, resilient reason for hope and for saying yes to life.
So it's not about ignoring the tragic parts.
Absolutely not. It's about finding meaning within them, or perhaps in spite of them. Frankl's tragic optimism is indeed a profound yes to existence, a fundamental affirmation of life's potential meaningfulness, despite suffering, guilt, and death.
Okay, suffering, guilt, death. He called this the tragic triad, right?
Exactly, the tragic triad. Pain, unavoidable suffering, guilt over past mistakes or imperfections, the gap between who we are and who we could be, and death, the transitoriness of life, our own mortality. He understood, perhaps more acutely than anyone, having faced them so starkly, that these are not anomalies, not signs that life has gone wrong. They are unavoidable, inherent aspects of the human condition.
Things we all face, sooner or later.
Precisely. Tragic optimism isn't about ignoring these harsh realities or slapping on a fake smile and pretending everything's fine. That would be naive optimism, which Frankl rejected. It's about actively finding meaning within these very challenges, using them as catalysts for growth, for change, for living more fully. It's a profoundly mature and realistic form of hope, one that has earned its stripes through the deepest, hardest human experiences.
So how did he suggest we transform this tragic triad? You mentioned turning pain into achievement.
Yes, he urged us to transform pain into achievement, meaning using our suffering, when unavoidable, as an opportunity for inner growth, for demonstrating courage, for finding strength we didn't know we had, or even for creating something valuable out of the experience, like advocacy or art.
Okay, and remorse into change.
Transform remorse into change. Guilt over past mistakes or shortcomings shouldn't lead to paralysis or self-hatred. Instead, it should motivate us to learn from the past, to make amends where possible, and to become a better person moving forward. Guilt points to our responsibility and our potential for improvement.
And mortality into urgency.
And transform mortality into urgency. The fact that life is finite, that our time is limited, shouldn't lead to despair or nihilism. Instead, Frankl argued, it should imbue our lives with a sense of urgency. It highlights the preciousness of each moment and motivates us to live responsibly, to make the most of our opportunities to find and fulfill our unique meaning before our time runs out. Death gives life meaning by making our choices matter.
This isn't just an abstract philosophical concept, then. It's a practical, actionable framework for turning life's deepest challenges, its unavoidable sorrows, into profound opportunities.
Absolutely. Opportunities for personal growth, for renewed purpose, for lasting contribution. It allows us to view hardship not as a meaningless endpoint, not as a sign of ultimate defeat, but as a potential starting point for something new, something deeply meaningful, something that ultimately reaffirms the value and potential of life itself, even in its tragic dimensions.
And Viktor Frankl provides insightful analysis here, drawing not only from the harrowing experiences of camp survivors,
Who exemplified this tragic optimism in so many ways?
but also from his later clinical cases. You mentioned paralyzed individuals.
Yes, he wrote about working with people who had suffered catastrophic injuries, becoming quadriplegic, for example, people who, from an external perspective, might seem to have lost everything, and yet he saw individuals in these exact situations who found deep purpose, maybe through counseling others, through intellectual pursuits, through maintaining loving relationships, through finding meaning simply in the attitude they took towards their condition. They demonstrated that the human spirit can transcend even the most severe physical limitations and suffering.
It shows that meaning isn't dependent on external circumstances being good.
Not at all. He understood that while pain, guilt, and death are unavoidable, our response to them is not predetermined. That's where our freedom lies. Tragic optimism isn't about ignoring these realities, but about actively finding meaning within them, using them as catalysts. He saw people who, despite unimaginable physical limitations or profound loss, found deep purpose, illustrating that the human spirit has this incredible capacity to wrest meaning even from suffering.
And in a world like ours today, that often seems obsessed with averting pain and discomfort at all costs, seeking perpetual happiness and ease, Frankl offers such a profound counter-narrative.
A much-needed one, perhaps.
Think about how individuals and communities here in the U.S. sometimes transform collective grief after a major tragedy, like the 9/11 attacks, or a devastating hurricane, or a mass shooting. Often, amidst the pain, you see this incredible outpouring of mutual support, resilience, and sometimes powerful advocacy emerges, aimed at preventing future suffering or creating something positive from the loss. Think of memorial foundations, scholarship funds, policy change movements.
Right, turning grief into action.
Or how personal experiences with terrible illnesses, like we discussed, lead to inspiring medical breakthroughs, with individuals or families funding research, bravely sharing their stories to help others feel less alone, or founding support groups that become lifelines for others. It's about finding value even in the most difficult, heart-wrenching moments, turning despair into enduring hope, not by wishing the pain away, but by actively creating something valuable from it, because of it.
That kind of optimism is not naive. It's hard-won. It's deeply powerful and profoundly human. And Frankl saw it as essential for navigating life authentically.
And he wrote about this in the 1980s during the Cold War, a time of great global anxiety.
Yes, in that 1984 preface, amidst widespread fears of nuclear annihilation, and his message absolutely echoes into 2025's uncertainties, whether it's ongoing geopolitical conflicts, climate change anxieties, rapid technological disruption, or personal crises. Frankl's message inspires us to embrace tragedy, meaning acknowledge its reality, find meaning in it, and live fully.
It's a testament to the enduring relevance of his work, isn't it? Humanity continues to grapple with large-scale anxieties, personal hardships, and those fundamental questions of existence. His work seems to cut through the noise, the panic, the distractions, and points to a deeper truth about our human potential for meaning.
It really does. And it raises that crucial final question. What does it truly mean to live fully when faced with life's inevitable limitations, sufferings, and sorrows?
What was Frankl's answer?
His answer, embedded in tragic optimism, is to live with a sense of urgency and profound responsibility. To recognize that every moment, even a moment of suffering, holds a unique, unrepeatable opportunity for meaning to be discovered or created through our response. It's a call to conscious living, to not let life merely happen to you passively, but to actively participate in shaping your response to it, thereby writing your own unique story of purpose, chapter by challenging chapter.
It's about appreciating the preciousness of life, then, precisely because it is finite and often difficult.
Exactly. That perspective encourages us to make the most of our time, however much we have, to deepen our relationships authentically, to contribute to causes greater than ourselves, finding self-transcendence, to find beauty and purpose in the everyday moments, knowing that even within tragedy, there lies the potential for finding meaning, for growth, for demonstrating the best of the human spirit.
This tragic optimism is not about glossing over the difficulties at all.
No, it's about looking directly at them, acknowledging the pain, the loss, the fear, and still finding a fundamental affirmation of life's inherent value and potential for purpose. It's a truly empowering philosophy for navigating our complex, beautiful, and often tragic world. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow, what an incredible and intense journey we've taken through Viktor Frankl's man's search for meaning. It feels like we've covered so much ground.
We really have. It's such a dense, profound work, despite its relative brevity.
We've explored the profound resilience of the human spirit, tracing that psychological journey through the shock, the apathy, and the depersonalization of extreme trauma, as witnessed in the concentration camps. And then we saw how internal fortitude, building that inner fortress, holding on to future visions, and making that ultimate choice of attitude can be profound acts of resistance, even in the most dehumanizing conditions imaginable.
And then we delved into logotherapy itself, Frankl's core contribution, understanding that our deepest drive isn't just for pleasure or power, but this burning quest for purpose, for meaning.
Right. And that meaning isn't just found inward, navel-gazing.
No, primarily outward. Through meaningful actions and creation, through profound experiences like love and appreciating beauty, and even, paradoxically, by courageously confronting unavoidable suffering and finding meaning in our response to it.
He teaches us how to combat that existential vacuum, that feeling of emptiness that seems so prevalent today, reminding us to seek meaning actively.
And he gave us those concrete, counterintuitive strategies like paradoxical intention and dereflection to help manage anxiety, not by fighting it directly, but by shifting our focus from self-obsession to outward engagement and purpose.
And finally, Frankl's tragic optimism. It really is a beacon, isn't it? That resounding yes to life despite pain, guilt, and death, urging us to transform these unavoidable aspects of existence into achievement, into positive change, and into a profound sense of urgency to live meaningfully.
It's just incredible. His message, forged in the crucible of literally unimaginable suffering, is such a timeless reminder of our inherent capacity for resilience, for freedom, and for purpose. He proves through his life and his work that meaning can be found or created in any and every circumstance.
His work isn't just about survival, though it teaches us so much about that. It's really about thriving, isn't it? About living a fully human life.
Exactly. It's about understanding that freedom isn't just freedom from oppression or suffering. That's only half the story. The more profound freedom is freedom to choose our attitude, freedom to take responsibility, and freedom to fulfill our unique meaning in the world. It's an incredibly empowering call to action for each of us right here, right now.
So, as we wrap up, what does this all mean for you listening today? As you reflect on Viktor Frankl's incredible insights, maybe consider this. What meaning are you being called to find or create in your own life right now? in your current circumstances?
How will you embrace your responsibilities, answer the unique questions life is posing to you? How will you define your unique answer, turning your own challenges, big or small, into chances for growth and purpose?
These are big questions, but Frankl assures us that we each have the capacity to answer them.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into such a powerful work. We truly hope this exploration of Viktor Frankl's timeless wisdom leaves you with a renewed sense of purpose, resilience, and perhaps a touch of that tragic optimism.
We certainly hope so too. If this deep dive has resonated with you, sparked some thought, or offered some new perspectives, and you're curious for more transformative insights, please do remember to like, subscribe, and maybe share Book Podcast Zone with anyone else you think might benefit from these profound ideas.
Your support helps us continue bringing these conversations to light.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into one of the world's most impactful books. Until then, keep searching for your meaning.